Hi everyone, I'm Paige Apgar, energy medicine practitioner and channel. I wanted to make this short video today to tell you about a trend that I've been seeing in my clients over the past few months. So this is something that's been going on since about November, but it continues, and I think it's important to make note. It's about the release of massive, long-term, sometimes lifelong patterns. And when I say patterns, these are energetic patterns that are holding in the system. And they hold on a number of levels. I'll go into that more as we get into this. But what's happening is as a result of this period that we're in with the pandemic and all of the change, people are hitting these massive turning points where the patterns are releasing. And these are things that can be so deep that most people aren't even aware that they have them. It's the kind of thing that can feel like, well, that's just who I am, or that's just part of my personality. I've always been this way, those kinds of things. And some of the reason for that is that these can also be soul level pieces. They can be pieces related to karmic issues or just soul level evolution, the learning of lessons, lessons being not a karmic retribution for something, but learning about a certain emotional state of being. So I know that sounds a little vague, but I will try to explain more. But what I really want to emphasize is that these things are happening, and some of you are probably feeling it. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because I think it's really important to make note. The other thing that I'm seeing happening, and I'm also hearing in other forums that I'm in, is that there are also a lot of people who are really struggling right now, which to me says that these patterns are coming to the surface, like it or not. And if we're able to move with them, if we're able to move with that moment, change, change with this moment that's upon us, and the change that's come to us, move with it, then we can move through things. But if we are not able to create that change, if we're attached to to our own emotional patterns, behavioral patterns, for whatever reason, to our past, to all kinds of things, if we are unable to release those things and move through them, then we can get stuck. And it's almost like getting stuck and just going around and around and around. And there can be a lot of emotional angst and a lot of struggle that goes along with that. So I want to talk about that a little bit too. And primarily in the end, I want to talk about what you might be able to do for yourself. So if you aren't working with a practitioner, there are I do have some ideas for you. So to get started, first of all, I want to say that, this is an incredible time that we're in. And these things that are happening are absolutely part of this time. They are absolutely a product of this breakdown of structures that we've gone through, this very bizarre and challenging period of the pandemic that we're still dealing with. Um, and it primarily, though, it's the breakdown of structures, and this is really an energetic thing, and the shifting and changing energies around us. So as these structures have been breaking down, and this started back at the beginning of 2020, so this is not something new, and I've talked about this a good bit in my other videos. Um, what's happening is the structures are also our internal structures. So it isn't just the sort of structures within society and large structures that kind of create life as we know it and have known it, that we've seen changing and shifting, not by choice. But there are also the structures within us. So you need to be able to sort of think of yourself as a very complex set of multi-layered patterns and movements, flows, and these have their own innate structure, and all of you is created in that way in structures. So these big patterns that we hold are the structures. that make up who we are and how we present in life, how we see ourselves, how we see the world. It has everything to do with your experience. I would say everything to do with your reality. So these structures have been challenged, and it's gotten to the point where, they've been breaking down, people have been dealing with a lot of stuff, but then it seems like we kind of hit this big turning point. So this year, 2021, I should say last year, starting in 2021, I'm going to say around November is when I started to notice in my clients that a lot of my clients were moving towards grid work. So practitioners who are listening know what that is. Those of you who aren't practitioners, the grid is the deepest energy system in our body. And it is like a support system for everything else. Everything else stacks on your grid. So you can have instability in your grid. You can have broken grid lines. And those aren't things that we dive in and fix right away. They're not quick or easy fixes. Those are things that take time to get to. And they come up when the body is ready, when you are ready on multiple levels to address them, to deal with them, to release them, to move forward, etc. So as of November, it was like one person after another was ready for a grid. I mean, just one, popping. I started to call it grid season at the end of the year. So it was actually the end of October was when it really started to come up, mid-October maybe. So it was like we started to hit this point, and I would say even with those people who weren't doing grid work, the others were also hitting these points of big patterns releasing. So these are, and the grid will release those patterns. It'll push you towards that release. So if the issue is related to the grid and locked into the grid, then you'll get to it by releasing or clearing, reconnecting grid lines. But it isn't always through grid work. So it can be the release of patterns that are locked in on multiple layers. So these things don't release easily. They have lots of spin-offs. So energetically, they have lots of spin-offs, lots of meridian imbalances that are linked to patterns, chakra imbalances linked to patterns, patterns in the electrical energy system, patterns in the aura. They lock in various places because they have to. And essentially, a lot of these, as I was saying before, are lessons that we came to learn. This is part of why you're here, why, what you chose for this lifetime. So, this is something to keep in mind when you have an issue that doesn't resolve, doesn't resolve, doesn't resolve. Well, maybe there's a reason for it. And that reason relates to a soul level evolutionary piece that's trying to resolve. And then once you've worked through it to the point where that need, that soul level need is satisfied, then it can release. And these releases can be absolutely life-changing because a lot of times it has to do with it's something so deep, like I was saying, that you don't even realize it's there, but it colors everything about how you see the world, um, how you interact with others, how you see yourself, what you think is possible for yourself, how you show up in the world in general. So it's pretty exciting. Also, not necessarily easy to go through. So these can be quite challenging moments, but people, go through them. That's part of healing. That's part of evolving and growing through life. Um, so the other side of that is that I'm also seeing and hearing about a lot of people who are in very difficult situations where it almost seems like you think something can't get any worse, and then it does. And then it does again. And then it does again. It was just kind of being hit by one thing after another and really getting bogged down by all of it and struggling. So there are different sides to this. So before I go into that, let's see if there's something else I wanted to say about that. Well, first of all, I'll say this. Um, for those of you who are working with a practitioner, who are undergoing work, these things will come up and they will likely resolve. If you're not working with a practitioner, You may be experiencing the same kinds of shifts and changes on a large scale in your own life. My suggestion, and it may be going very well and be very easy, it may just be rocky and difficult. My suggestion is that you maintain a larger perspective on everything and look at, really step up to being ready to release what no longer serves you, meaning any emotional and behavioral patterns that you know you have that might be getting triggered and being, which is a way of pushing it up to the surface. So when it's time for us to deal with something, it comes up, right? A lot of you know that. Um, and it can come up in an undeniable way, and it can come up over and over and over. It's like it's knocking at the door saying, you need to pay attention to me. A lot of people talk about pain in that way. Well, that can happen on any level. It can happen with, the same kind of situations happening in your life over and over, or feeling like you can't get ahead, or, whatever it may be. It happens. So pay attention to those things that are coming up and be willing and ready to release them. Ask to release them. Set the intention. Your intention is very, very powerful. I see this all the time when I work with people in sessions. I say, set the intention to release this, all of a sudden, boom, 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 things start to move. So setting the intention to release things that aren't serving you is going to move you forward a lot more quickly. A great time to do that is when you're lying in bed, going to sleep at night. You're in a much more suggestible state. It's a good time to implant these ideas into the subconscious mind. Just repeat to yourself, I release all the patterns that no longer serve me. You can focus on a specific type of situation, specific patterns that you know you have, anything like that. But I would work with that and be aware, observe, try to be less reactive and more observant. What is this trying to tell me? What's the universe trying to tell me? And the same thing goes for people who are really struggling right now. This exact same thing. It's a moment to step into what is it that the universe is telling me? What is it that life is asking me to let go of? And a lot of times when we're stuck, there are patterns of fear underneath. It's a fear of letting go of something. A lot of times there can be a need that's actually being met by staying. And sometimes that need is the need to feel safe, to stay in an old comfort zone that no longer serves you because it made you feel safe. And it can feel scary to step out of that, but we're being pushed and it's time. And the energy of this moment is supporting that movement. It will support you if you release and move forward. It will support you if you're ready to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to let these things go. I am actually starting to think that it may work against you if you're not ready to release, if you're not able to release, if you're not able to acknowledge things. It's almost like getting pulled in two different directions. You can choose the one and go whoosh, and move forward, or you can choose the other and really get stuck and stay in that place. So, again, set intentions, 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 intentions. They are very powerful. And I think that is all I have to say on that topic. I hope that didn't sound scary or heavy. But again, I wanted to make note of it because I do think that it's possible that this time of massive turning points is, I think we may actually be moving away from that and into something else. There's always something else. And of course, once we move into something else, we kind of forget about where we just were and those big changes. It's so easy to just be in where you are now and what's happening next. So I think it's really good to stop and acknowledge, make note of, and keep these things in mind. So final notes, I would say, think about your life, observe if this has been coming up for you in any way. If you have any questions about this, I'm happy to answer them. You can message me. You can also post your comments and questions here on the post. And, if you are open to it and would like to, you can post your own personal experiences as well, because I'm sure that a lot of people out there are experiencing these same things. It's just not possible that it's only my clients who are going through this. Um, so that is it. Again, I'm Paige Apgar, uh, energy medicine practitioner and channel. You can find out more about me on my website, soulslightenergyhealing.com. And I also have more videos of this type on my Facebook page. I have a little category, a playlist that's healing during the pandemic. And that's where this one will go as well, because it's been a wild ride, this pandemic, but it is absolutely pushing us forward. So we have to be able to let go and move with it. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.